At the beginning of the movie, we see Haruka, Ayan, and Daiki standing in front of an abandoned building. Haruka mentions that someone built a strange altar inside, which made the place popular. She adds that there are stories online about ghosts and the red woman being seen there, so she brought the others along to break the boredom. Ayan and Daiki say they want to see a ghost and decide to film their experience to post the video on TikTok. Searching for the ghost, they enter the building and immediately hear a sound, which excites them. As they step forward to find its source, the sound occurs again, making them a little scared. However, they dismiss their fear and proceed down the stairs. Haruka points to a door and asks, "Isn't the altar supposed to be there?" As they enter the room, they find something that appears to be the altar, but it looks as if someone has broken it. They all hesitate to go near it, and Haruka comments that someone must have deliberately made it look so disgusting, and complains that a video like this won't get any views. She adds that if the ghost doesn't appear, it will be boring, and suggests breaking the altar to summon it. Ayan asks if she's really going to do it, to which Haruka immediately throws the altar down and starts kicking it. After a while, when nothing happens, Haruka calls out, daring the ghost to show itself and curse her. A woman's voice suddenly says, "Don't," and shocked, Ayan asks Daiki if he heard it. Haruka, undeterred, demands the ghost appear, but some sounds start echoing, and she insists, "Enough with the sounds, show yourself." Suddenly, a horrifying scream echoes through the building, making them flinch in fear, and before they can process what's happening, the scream rings out again. As they step out of the room, the scream echoes again, and the further they move toward the sound, the louder and more terrifying it becomes. Haruka starts ascending the stairs, but a sudden sound startles them, causing her to step back down, and they are unable to figure out where the sounds are coming. Terrified, they decide to flee the building and cautiously ascend the stairs, but the eerie sounds continue to rattle them. As they finally reach the upper floor, their blood runs cold when they see a woman in red standing on the opposite side. Haruka confronts her, prompting the woman to turn toward them, and in the next instant, she runs toward them at full speed. Panicked, they bolt out of the building, only to spot her standing ominously at the door. But suddenly she appears right in front of Daiki and attacks him, but just as quickly as she appeared, she vanishes into thin air. Horrified, they sprint toward the gate, desperate to escape the premises. But then, the video stops and rewinds, revealing the woman in red standing behind a wall, silently watching them. Next, we see producer Kudo Jin and director Miho Ichikawa. Jin asks viewers for their thoughts on a video and explains that the people who originally filmed it first uploaded it to TikTok, but it was quickly mistaken for a disturbing law-breaking prank in a public place, and due to viewer complaints, the video was immediately banned. Having spent years creating content related to crime, ghosts, entertainment, and other dangerous subjects, the filmmakers reached out to him, asking him to review and share their footage with the public. He admits he was shocked when he first saw it, and with so many strange things happening in the video, he decided to investigate further and turn it into his first full-length movie. Ichikawa then adds that, in reality, due to the impact of the coronavirus, Kudo's company is on the brink of collapse, and making this film is his last chance to turn things around. She then says that the video has many interesting points, and she wants to review them in detail and order. They consult an expert named Yoshida for his take on the video, who tells them that a lot is happening in the video. But the most striking detail is a figure in a dark red suit with red-stained arms, legs, and face. Though she appears human, she can move instantly and wields a knife. He interprets this as the next evolution of an urban legend. When Ichikawa asks for clarification, Yoshida references legends like the slit-mouthed woman, Kashima-san, and Hashiku-sama, beings with physical forms despite defying physics, which is why he doesn't consider them ghost. He believes it is the collective unconscious of the current generation that has taken real form, and given her dark red appearance, he suggests calling her the Red Woman. He explains that for such entities to take form, a story is essential, meaning the figure in their video must be based on the Red Woman's legend. Jin asks if they can capture her since she has a physical form, and Yoshida warns it's dangerous, but offers to introduce them to a psychic. Yoshida calls the psychic Izo Onimura, who asks if, in addition to them, there will be 3 others. Surprised? Ichikawa asks how he knows this, to which he responds that he is a real psychic. Suddenly, Onimura senses that something is wrong, and the next moment, Yoshida collapses, startling everyone. Onimura begins chanting something, and soon after, Yoshida vomits. Onimura then reassures Yoshida that everything is fine now, and warns him to stay out of the case. Next, the scene replays in slow motion, and as Yoshida vomits, something strange emerges, leech-like creatures. Now, when Yoshida was telling them about the red woman, someone was peeking at them from behind the cabinet, and when the camera zooms in, it reveals the eerie, silent face of the red woman watching them. Next, on the way to the abandoned building, Ichikawa asks how they met. Daiki explains they worked at the same karaoke bar until it shut down due to coronavirus. After losing their jobs, they turned to TikTok and YouTube, but got banned, leading them to seek help. Ichikawa asks if anything unusual has happened to them since they made the video, to which Ayan says, just a little, insisting it's nothing serious, just a dream. Onimura asks, weren't you being chased by a huge red shadow in your dream? Shocked, Ayan says she hadn't told anyone about that, and then continues that she was in a dark city, and there was a red creature, something inhuman. Then, it suddenly took flight and started devouring people around her. Onimura explains that it's a vision of the future, and warns that if they lose focus today, they will die. Ichikawa asks if there have been any other strange occurrences, to which Daiki responds that ever since that moment, he has constantly felt like someone is watching him. So to find out if something was really there, he started recording himself while he slept. Taking out his phone, he says, here's a video I took last night. In the footage, as he is focused on his phone, a voice says, don't, and an unseen force suddenly pulls him. Ayan doubts he might have faked it, but Daiki insists that something really pulled him. Onimura intervenes, saying this isn't a joke, warning him that he strongly attracts trouble, so he'd better be careful. Daiki doesn't take Onimura's words seriously at all, brushing them off as a joke. Frustrated, Onimura suddenly smashes Daiki's phone, breaking it. Ichikawa then asks Haruka if anything happened to her after filming the video, to which she says there wasn't much to it. However, Onimura disagrees and begins reading her. Moments later, a painful voice suddenly echoes through their car, shocking everyone. Haruka accuses Onimura of being a fraud, but he immediately starts chanting something, and suddenly darkness engulfs them. Then, the red woman suddenly appears and attacks Onimura before vanishing, but they realize that Onimura wasn't harmed by the attack. Ichikawa asks why it is night outside, but Jin is excited that they are the first people in the world to capture time travel. Ichikawa asks where they are, and only then does Hakura point out the abandoned building, confirming that they have definitely passed the gate. Onimura tells Jin, let's go back. However, Jin dismisses the idea, arguing that if the movie is a hit, they will all get a huge bonus. Onimura warns that they are all going to die, showing his cut and insisting that it's real, to which Jin realizes the danger and decides to go back. Jin turns the car and starts driving toward the gate, but suddenly, the building appears in its place, startling everyone. They ask Onimura what's happening, but he, just as confused, says it's strange and not normal at all. Jin turns the car around again, but to their horror, the building is now right in front of them. Jin and others step outside the car to look around, and Onimura says this situation is beyond him, so he'll contact his master. He calls his master, Tameo, but the voice on the other end is choppy and incomprehensible. Onimura tells her that the situation is out of his hands and asks for her help, requesting that she come as soon as possible. He sends her a geolocation, saying he's relying on her. Jin asks what just happened, and Ichikawa suggests that they might be in a parallel world. She compares it to the legend of Kaizaragi Station, where words and symbols from a parallel world become distorted, making phone calls from their world incomprehensible in this one. Jin says that if that's the case, then Tameo doesn't understand anything he told her, which means they have no choice but to act on their own. As they move toward the building to enter, they suddenly hear a loud noise, as if something is coming toward them. They quickly run inside the building for safety and lock the door. Ichikawa asks what that was, to which Onimura admits he doesn't know, but suggests restoring the altar, as its destruction triggered a chain of events. As they move toward the room, they suddenly hear a scream and are shocked to find themselves teleported to a different part of the building and a different time. Onimura warns that it's dangerous to stay there and suggests they head downstairs. They immediately start descending the staircase, but it seems endless, and after a while, when they come out to check, they are stunned to find themselves right back where they started. Onimura says something is preventing them from leaving, and frustrated, Jin demands the entity to show itself, but Ichikawa says there are stairs at the end of the hallway that leads to the street. They all run in that direction, but the hallway never seems to end. And after a while, they realize that they can't even get to the stairs. Onimura tells them to imagine a room with an altar, saying it will give them the strength to go further. He then leads them, ringing a bell, and they slowly start moving towards the stairs. But then suddenly it becomes dark there, startling everyone. But Onimura tells everyone to calm down. Then, Ayan starts hearing a man's voice saying something to her, which deeply unsettles her, and the others are unable to understand what is happening to her. Onimura begins chanting something and commands the bad memories to go away, and the voice gradually fades away. However, as they move forward, Daiki starts hearing voices, which greatly upset him. But once again, Onimura intervenes and makes the voices disappear. As they move forward, they hear a painful scream from behind, but Onimura warns them not to look back and to keep their eyes forward. He tells Jin to lead while he steps backward to confront the entity. However, just moments later, they are suddenly teleported to the staircase leading to the altar room. Now, as they enter the altar room, they are shocked to find the altar fully restored, and Ichikawa suggests that they might have traveled back in time to a point before the events of the video. Onimura agrees, but clarifies that he doesn't believe they are in the past, but rather somewhere in between. He explains that they are in another world, where they can observe the past like ghosts. Just then, they hear the sound of footsteps, and Onimura quickly tells everyone to be quiet and turn off the lights. They quietly move out of the room and hide behind a machine, watching as Haruka enters the building with a girl. Onimura asks Haruka if this is the past, and she confirms it. Her friends question why she never told them, but she asks Onimura. He said it has meaning. When Onimura agrees, she simply says, "That's the meaning," and takes the bat from Jin. Onimura warns her not to go near them, but Haruka insists that she wants to kill the bastard who will be arriving soon. Onimura explains that if she alters the course of events, something terrible will happen, though he doesn't know what. Haruka reveals that the man who is coming will abuse her and Kotoko. She explains that Kotoko became pregnant, lost her mind, and went missing. Ayan asks if that's why she came here, and Haruka nods, saying she hoped to find Kotoko and help her. Just then, a ball rolls down the stairs, followed by a man descending with a knife in his hand. He plays a recording on his phone, ordering them to take off their clothes, or he will cut off their limbs and breasts. Haruka tells them that he is the bastard, and since they are here, they must do something about him. She then rushes to confront him, and Ichikawa yells for Haruka to strike with all her strength. Haruka swings at him, landing several hits, but he absorbs them without reacting. Then, suddenly, he dodges her attack and extends his knife toward her, and everyone shouts for Haruka to retreat. Suddenly, the room is plunged into darkness. When they turn the lights on, the man is still standing there. Onimura declares that he is not human, and Jin, trying to assert control, warns the entity that it is outnumbered. In response, the man raises his hand, and something from within the room flies directly into his grasp. Onimura steps forward to confront the entity, but it throws those things at him, knocking him down. It then attacks Jin and Ichikawa, striking fear into everyone, and as they attempt to flee, the entity knocks them as well. Jin gets up wondering what they should do, but the entity removes its mask, revealing Jin's own face. Jin is stunned, unable to process what he's seeing, and just then, a woman arrives, catching the entity's attention. It turns toward her and raises his hand to attack her, but she swiftly dodges and counters, causing the entity to vanish. Jin asks if she is Tomeo, and she confirms it. However, she informs them that Onimura and the others are dead before asking what they plan to do next. She then tells them to grab the pipe she is holding, and they hesitate to comply. But the moment they do, it suddenly becomes daytime. Shocked, they realize that the others have disappeared. Ichikawa quickly rushes to the altar room to confirm they are in the present, and they discover that the altar is broken. They rush back to Tomeo, and Jin asks about the creature with his face, to which she explains that it was him, but from another world. His worst traits had come into contact with the other side and manifested as a monstrous humanoid form. His instincts drove him to destroy it, but he failed. As they exit the building, Tomeo plays Onimura's call recording, where only her voice is clear. She tells them that the geotag was also broken, but she sensed his distress, searched with the spirits, and took a risk to find them. She then states that Onimura and the other three are now missing, and turns to Toshiro, asking if he's recording everything. She warns them that if they show this video, the police will come after them since the disappearance of the four will be seen as their responsibility. She asks if they're prepared to face hate on the internet, adding that profiting from their disappearance would be even worse. Toshiro tells Jin, "Let's take responsibility," and release the video. But Jin asks Tomeo if they can travel back in time to save the others, pointing out that this time, she's with them. Tomeo replies that there's nothing she can't do, but warns that this time, they might not survive. Ichikawa looks at Jin and says, "If they can save these kids, this will be the first video of its kind in the world," and Toshiro agrees, but Tomeo insists on 30% of the movie's profits if they go through with it. Jin agrees, but at that moment, Toshiro becomes terrified upon seeing the red woman. However, when the others look, she is nowhere to be seen until she suddenly appears right beside them. Frightened, Jin tries to strike her, but Tomeo stops him. Tomeo then steps forward and tells them that she is Kotoko, explaining that she is human but trapped in between worlds. She gained power from the other side and tried to prevent Haruka from coming here to keep her from falling under that man's curse. Kotoko then urges them to save Haruka, and Tomeo explains that if they don't, she will die on the other side. Jin acknowledges that since they all want to save Haruka, they share a common goal. Tomeo sarcastically remarks that they make a great team, and as she walks toward the building, she declares that they will create a new parallel world, bring everyone back to life, and then return them here. She also warns them that if they come too close to their past selves, they will vanish. They then grab the pipe, and Tomeo tells them to visualize the moment they arrived. After some time, darkness envelops the area, prompting Toshiro to quickly turn on the light. Ichikawa asks Tomeo what they should do next, to which she replies that the others will arrive soon, so she will prepare everything in the meantime. Toshiro turns off the lights, and after a while, they all enter the building. Tomeo approaches them, introduces herself, and tells Onimura she got a strange call, realizing he was in another world. She then warns they can't go further and urges them to leave. Suddenly, the kids run inside, but she stops the others from following. Tomeo then instructs Jin and the others to follow the kids, and they rush downstairs. However, they are suddenly teleported to another building. Realizing someone is interfering with them, Tomeo tells the group that, just like before, they must visualize the place and time they need to be in. But before they can act, Kotoko suddenly starts screaming. Suddenly, a ball comes bouncing toward them, causing Kotoko to panic and run away. The others instinctively follow her, but Toshiro suddenly finds himself alone. He panics and runs outside until Jin and Ichikawa find him, but just then, a ball bounces toward them, and they spot the entity standing at the door. Fear grips them, and they flee. And in the chaos, they reunite with Tomeo and Kotoko, and Tomeo instructs them to visualize the room with the altar. They are then teleported back to the main building and rush into the altar room. And seeing them, all three friends become frightened, but Tomeo calms them down. Haruka is surprised to see Kotoko with them and asks why she is dressed like that. But just then, a loud noise distracts them. Rushing outside, they find that the entity has arrived, who throws the ball into the air, scaring them. Suddenly it appears behind Haruka and Kotoko and makes them disappear, and when Tomeo attempts to attack, it vanishes. Tomeo gathers the group and suggests finding Haruka and Kotoko by imagining them, but suddenly, She addresses the viewers, asking them to lend their power by thinking of the missing girls and wishing for their salvation. After a while, Tomeo declares they've found them and urges, "Let's go save them!" As they rush to save Haruka and Kotoko, they are teleported to different parts of the building multiple times. And suddenly, they encounter a strange wall that Tomeo destroys, revealing Haruka and Kotoko behind it. Just then, the entity appears, and Tomeo urges them to quickly grab the pipe. The entity throws something at them, but Tomeo teleports them to the roof of the building. Soon after, the entity appears and raises its hand to attack, but it seems his powers aren't working. Tomeo laughs manically and approaches him, telling him, "This isn't the other side. This is the real world," and he has been caught in Tomeo's barrier. She then lunges at the entity, but it teleports her somewhere. Jin moves forward to confront the entity, but it attacks him from a distance and hurls him aside. Ichikawa rushes to save Jin and punches the entity, but he knocks her down as well. Just then, Kotoko brings in a giant baby and points toward the entity, saying, "He is your daddy." The baby moves toward the entity, who opens his arms, but the baby knocks him unconscious. Jin steps forward, telling the baby he did a great job, and the baby then disappears into thin air. Jin approaches the entity, removes his mask, and asks, "Why do you have my face?" To which the entity responds, "Because I am you from another world." He warns Jin that if he kills him, he will simply be reborn from him again. Jin hits him, telling him to shut up, and says, "There is something inside me that hates you, and I don't like it even more." He says, "No matter how many times you're born, I'll destroy you every time." He then begins striking the entity relentlessly, but he notices Kotoko and the giant baby before him. After a moment, the baby suddenly devours the entity, and then disappears into thin air once again. Only then does Tomeo come there, but seeing the scene, she asks, "Is everything over?" And they say it looks like. Tomeo gets overjoyed to see that everyone made it, and then she rushes to the camera and thanks the viewers for lending their power. They then all grab the pipe, and Tomeo teleports them back to the building. She then goes to the others from the past and unfreezes them, but warns them, "Don't get too close to yourselves." She then gathers everyone and tells them that they all have returned now. She tells Onimoro to take care of Tomeo from his world and reassures Kotoko that it's all right now. She then sends them back, and when Ichikawa asks what's gonna happen now, she tells them to don't worry and teleports them to the time when it all started. Onimoro wakes up and gets up shocked, and meanwhile, Ichikawa wakes everyone else. Haruko rushes to Kotoko and embraces her tightly, and Kotoko tells her that she has been waiting for her here the whole time. Tomeo then teleports them out of the building, and they all jump in joy. Jin declares, "We're going to be millionaires now," and announces a bonus for everyone. Ichikawa asks Tomeo, "Did you hear about the giant toddler that was here earlier?" To which Kotoko responds, "Do you mean Makun?" She points toward the sky, revealing Makun flying up there. Jin looks at the camera and says, "How cool is that?" But just then, Makun throws something at them, and the movie ends there. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.